Why is it so small? Be big. Be big! Did I break it? Did I break it? I might have broken it. Costume quest! No! Okay, wow. Alright, let's try that again. Can't do anything. Okay. There we go. Oh, now it's big. Now it's big. Okay, let's hope I don't break it again. Oh boy. It's gonna be one of those games. It's an older game. Sometimes they do this. Alright, costume quest! This is one of my favorite Halloween games. I'm gonna we're gonna play on slot 3 because I'm pretty sure there's, well, I'm just gonna play on slot 1. It's fine. Hi, Luke. Hello, A&E Morite. I did see you there. Every time I say your name, I just drop into a southern accent. Or at least what southern accent I have. Kids, I know it's tough, but tonight is Halloween, so please go out there and make new friends. Mom, Halloween isn't about making friends, it's about terror and candy. It's about showing the world who you really are. Well, even if you don't find any new friends, remember your best friend will always be your brother or sister. Ew, gross. That's why you have to stick together. Or else you're grounded. No way, I'm not going trick-or-treating with my little brother. You're only 10 minutes older than me, and I'm the big one because I was born 10 ounces bigger. Oh no. No fighting. Yes, I suppose I should put one of you in charge so there won't be any fighting. Ooh, who we gonna play, chat? Who gonna play? Who gonna play? I think I always go for Reynold, so we're gonna play as Ren this time. Are you kidding me? No talking slave. If you blow this night for me, I swear I will tell Mom what you did to the cat. But we'll be lucky if we get any candy with you dressed in that horrible costume. But let's get this good time over with. Yay! Trick-or-treating! Trick-or-treat! I was gonna give this entire bag of candy to the next kids that came to my door, but ouch, that costume. What the Here, take some of the stale diabetic marzipan. As you try to eat it, think about how bad costumes hurt Halloween. I knew your stupid costume was gonna get in the way of my trick-or-treating. How come you know it wasn't your costume? Maybe at the next house they'll hate robots but love garbage. I mean, candy. Whoa, look, the light's on at that house. That means somebody's home. Let's go to this one. Okay. They better have candy at this house. I have a good feeling about this house, don't you? Hey, where'd you go? You're hurting my rep. I can't afford to be seen with you in your crummy costume. Well, more candy for me then. Actually, that makes me really sad. Oh. Scram, human! I'm busy searching this house for candy! Ah! Holy mama, come here, you giant talking candy! Put me down! I'm not candy! Uh-oh. Oh, this is just great. What the? I said open up! I said get lost! But I got candy! And I got orders. They say no gremlins allowed back until all houses are cleared of candy. But it's a special candy. It's huge and wiggly and says stuff. Put me down, you toad! Do you hear that? Bojan has to check this out. Alright, throw it over for inspection. Tell Bojan it was Gus from Section 5 who found it, okay? G-U-S. Ah! Hey, Gus! I'm the only one who gets to throw my brother around. Oh, you weren't supposed to see that. Now we gotta fight. Good thing you're just a puny little human baby with a box on her head. That does it. I'm sick of annoying people and monsters trying to ruin my Halloween. It's time to show you how we trick-or-treat back where I'm from. Let's go! Battle time! Look at this fucking sick transformation! Look at it! Oh my god, yes! It's so cool. I love this game. Hell yeah. Defeat monsters to earn experience points and candy. Oh right, I forgot about the timing thing. Oh, I got a big problem with remembering buttons. Oh fuck. Remembering buttons and timing is difficult for me, but it's fine. Missile barrage! Yeah! Got 350 XP and 25 candy. Ooh. Not your average trick-or-treater, are you? Yeah, well, Halloween's kind of my thing. Hey, have you seen a short, dumb, super uncool little nerd running around here? I have to find him or I'm gonna be grounded. Ha! Everyone in this normal world is dumb and annoying, and right now you're the most annoying one of all. Now vanish before I'm forced to make you disappear. Uh-oh. Hey, who you calling normal? I'll give you a taste of my rocket fist. What's that? I couldn't hear you over that sudden tornado. What sudden tornado? Whoa! My costume! I love her little bat clip. Bro, my costume's gone, Reynolds gone, my Halloween night is ruined. The only thing I care about, the only thing I had to look forward to this entire year. Ruined. Mom's gonna ground me for losing Reynolds. Oh. Hi, kitty. Now this cat's gonna barf on me. Hi, kitty. Oh, look at his little big butthole. What you got there, kitty? Little pink toe beans. Hey, that's the pattern for my robot costume. How did you get that? I just have to find the materials listed here to rebuild my robot costume. Hey, that awesome cat left before I could thank him. Quest added. Yeah, we got all these quests. I can break pumpkins with my candy pail and get candy out of them. Pail bash. Get pail bashed. Bah. Any materials? Can I actually hit it through the... Oh, I can't. Bonk. 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 Cardboard! Yes! Wonder who put it in that strange coffin. That is suspicious. Ooh, another one. Tin foil. Aluminum foil. Sorry, I didn't realize we were being fancy over here. Aluminum. Because pale bashing rubbish bins for candy is the peak of hygiene. You know what? Anyone who's throwing out candy on Halloween is stupid. More for me. Roller skate shoes. Oh yeah, I got my Heelys. Now I'm ready to be a robot. Look at this, I can be so fast. The robot is like the best. You can dash with it. Whee! Oh, I have a pale bash. Just give me all that candy. Give me the candy! Whoa. Hey, why'd you do that? Just following orders, kid. Stay out of our way. Ha! Idiot. What'd you do with my brother? Sorry, I don't have time to chat. We're on a tight schedule. So long, Stinky. Hey, I'm not stinky. You will be after standing by these trash cans all night. Rude. Whee! Take that. Hey, what? I need to get through. Monsters took my brother through that black gate. Sorry, kid. Road's closed due to vehicular malfeasance. Vehicular malfeasance? It's easy for me to say. Hey! Thank you, Travis, for clarifying your position on nerds. Now, could you please unhand me? You don't have my permission to trick or treat over here, Everett. All new kids have to wait their turn. Hey, what's going on? It's time you new kids learned that in this neighborhood, tonight is all about me getting candy. Really? Because I think tonight is about you getting served. You know, I've just realized I've never given a wedgie to a robot before. Get over here. Run, brave Samaritan. He's as fast as he is impervious to reason. I'm running. Oh, was I not actually supposed to run? I am not programmed for failure. Oh man, I hate nerds. I'm gonna smash you like a weak old pumpkin. Run! Now I gotta run. Whee! Get out of my way, everybody, get out of my way. Whee! Hell yeah! Sick tricks! I'm the coolest in the neighborhood. Ha! Get wrecked. Get wrecked, Travis. Travis, what's going on here? Is it time for me to call your parents? No, I got these punks trying to steal some kids. Shut your lie hole, Travis. Leave these kids alone. Wow, are you really gonna arrest him if he acts up again? Nah, but scaring kids is what Halloween's all about, right? Why is Travis treating new kids like a 60-year-old man? 'Cause Travis sucks. Road's clear. Time to go rip that big black monster gate off its hinges. Oh my god, that was awesome. How did you do that? Did you cast a fatigue spell on him? Or an invisible glacial wind? I don't know what that guy was thinking. It's like he has no concept of how fast robots are. Or how well knights can take a punch. Yeah, that's a pretty sweet costume you got. Thanks, yours too. Want to switch? Not sure. Let me try it on. Let's switch costumes. Our costumes are both incredibly superior. We should stick together. I'm on a quest to rescue my brother from the monsters. I'm sure you've noticed the monsters. Shh. You had me at quest. Robo time. Listen, I love the night costume, but robot. This is where that monster took my lesser half. Okay, you stay here and keep watch. I'll go get our parents. No way! If my parents find out I let monsters kidnap my brother, even though I'm the favorite, they're gonna take care. They're gonna care a little, you know. They probably wouldn't even believe us. I guess this is one door I have to go through alone. You coming? Totally. Yeah, Everett's so cool. Let's go. Trick or treat gate. Beat it, Grubbins. You know this gate won't open until every house has been liberated of its candy. You monsters are never gonna get away with this. Hey, who is this? This is Gus from Section 5. Gus, quit messing around and call your wife. She's worried sick about you. Oh. Oh, man. Gus's wife. Someone tell Gus's wife that, he's a bitch. I guess we'll just have to go get all of the candy. Trick or treat. Hey. Yeah, look at all that candy. Why are we trick-or-treating so late? Trick-or-treat. Uh-oh. You made me lose count of all the candy I'm stealing. What the? Well, then maybe you need to check your ADHD. Let's go. Robot time. All right. Oh, I missed by that much. I'm used to, okay. I'll tell you why I'm so bad at this. Because you guys know I play rhythm games sometimes, and I'm okay at them. The answer is, the last time I played this game, I was streaming it from my PC downstairs to the TV. This is Costume Quest, Kenjamin. It's the best. I want to spread it on toast because it's your jam. But yeah, Costume Quest. It's the best. And I have to get better at quick time events. I have to get better at remembering where the buttons are. But yeah, the last time I played this, dude, I freaking love robots. There's so many cool costumes in this game. Luckily the quick time events are pretty lenient, so it should be okay. But the last time I played this, I was streaming it from my computer upstairs to the TV downstairs, and there was quite a bit of lag. So my memory for timing is probably gonna be a bit off. I don't need Guardian Shield right now. Guardian Shield just means that I take less damage, but I don't really need it. There we go. Alright, I'm getting back into the groove. I'm getting back into the groove. You know what would help us? Getting some battle stamps from Sadie. Oh, you're right. Sadie, getting some battle stamps is a good idea, Everett. We'll make our way over there. Trick or treat! Yay! Candy! Candy! You know what? I'm gonna... Nah, I'll do it next time. I'm making new starting and end screens for October. For spooky season. Ooh, what's up? Oh man, you collect creepy treat cards? I just need one glob to finish my set. Trade you a rare one for one? Ooh. I think I'd only play as the Robuds. Yeah. Like custom Robo. Okay, Sadie! Battle stamps! Hi, could you please stop yelling? Yeah, we need to concentrate. We're fighting monsters. In those boring costumes? Our costumes are amazing. Yeah, FYI, we've been slaying monsters with them all night. I'm just saying, they could use a little zing, a little zow, a little customization. Interested? Depends, what are you charging? Just a few pieces of candy, a small price to pay for a battle stamp. What exactly do these battle stamps do? Glad you asked. Please consult my menu of tonight's specials. Ooh, we got a black hat and Fang of the Wolf. Okay, we can get both, I think. Hell yeah. And then I'm gonna give Everett the black cat and Ren the fang of the wolf. There we go. That should be good. Go bash up some. But yeah, so the robot's power is that you can go really fast. And then if I switch to the knight has this like shield. It's about time you kids volunteered. The school bake sale is counting on you. Actually, Mrs. Putterpam, we need to get past you so we can trick-or-treat all those houses so this gate will... Nonsense! Trick-or-treating can wait. I need help making pies or else we'll have to cut our PE classes. No more PE! Right on! How dare you speak to your principal so irreverently. Yeah, irreverently. I will see you Monday morning in my office. No, please, my mom will kill me if I have to go to your office again. Is there anything we can do to see that Everest doesn't get in trouble, ma'am? Yes, you can go fetch me an ingredient to help with the pie bake. Hurry before I change my mind and give you both detention on Monday. Uh-oh. Pie for Putterpam. Find a pie ingredient for Miss Putterpam. Everett is objectively correct in celebrating the end of PE. Everett is correct. But unfortunately the principal does not agree. We're not really gonna help out that old battle axe, are we? We have to get past her so we can trick-or-treat at every house or that black gate won't open. That's a gross overstep of her authority. Wow, sibling love is a powerful thing. No, I just don't want to get drowned. Okay, let's think. What would make a good ingredient for pie that's not a pumpkin or an apple? You found me! I'm playing hide and seek with my friends. Wanna play? If you find all 6 of us, you get a prize. Okay. Cool. There's so many side quests to do. Ooh, there's a chest over there. Chest. What's in here? Candy! Ooh, 20 pieces. Trick or treat! Oh no! It's a grubbin! Wow! Robot time! Uh-oh, wizard grubbins. Or warlocks. Yeah! Alright, I'm getting back into the groove. Uh-oh, they do a lot. They do a lot of damage. Can Everett still do his shield? No. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Oh well, he died anyways. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Missile barrage! Okay, Guardian shield on... Yeah, we'll Guardian shield Ren. Because I think Ren hits harder. The attack animations while you're on fire is cool as hell. Yeah! Oh, I missed! It's fine. I still won. Yeah. I got candy here. Creepy treat. Trick or treat. Yay! Candy! What's up? This ramp is a need-to-know basis. This is when you need to know the password. You hiding? Dang, did the reflection on my glasses give me away? No, you're just in plain sight. Dumpster candy! Give me that dumpster candy. I actually don't love candy all that much, like Halloween candy. I find it gets like, it's like too sweet and kind of overwhelming sometimes. Trick or treat! Don't be greedy. 1 piece of candy each. That's more than 1 piece. Dumpster candy is imbued with extra flavor. Yeah. I tried to run a costume quest, sort of like Fate / D&D game, and then we never finished it. So I'll do that again though. It was fun with more refinement. Humans, filthy bag carrying humans. Wow. Warlock. The guardsman has more health, but I think the warlocks do more damage. So we'll attack the warlock first. Really need to get my timing better. Ha! Dodged. That's what I was worried about. What on earth did the grubbins do to the adults living in these houses? Who knows? Do some people just have questionable choice in guests? Maybe. Missile barrage. Haha, now you're on fire. Yeah. Got some rasms. Ooh, level up. You now have more attacking power and health in battle. Sweet. Give me that mailbox candy. What's up, Play Possum? Work lurk. Thank you for the work lurk. Darn, my bright red costume. Yeah, not the best when trying to play hide and seek. Alright, any other houses over here that we missed? There's one. Trick or treat! Yeah. Houses, houses, houses. What's up? Careful, people are watching. Watching us do what? If you don't know, then you must not be doing it. Okay. Private party for patriotic heroes. Your costume celebrates science and the monarchy. How is that patriotic? Look, I have a colleague in the front of the steps over there who might be able to inspire you. Just tell her that I said it's a matter of manifest destiny. Got that? Okay. I have a manifest destiny. You just see a doctor about that. Here, let me give you this prescription. Statue of Liberty costume pattern. The monarchy is patriotic somewhere. Not in this town, apparently. Trick or treat! Uh-oh! A grubbin! It's okay, we got this. Magical girl transformation! Ooh, the bombardiers. I don't know, we'll just, I need to pay attention about, like, how much damage things are doing. The magical girl transformation, yeah, it's very good. Games need more magical girl transformations. 13. Missile barrage! Get wrecked! Ah, I pressed the wrong button. Whoops! Victory! Let's go! What's up? What's the password? Manifest destiny? Well, you got some powerful friends, that's all I gotta say. Ooh! It looks cool in there, but I get soaked. Oh, I can fix that. Yeah. Shield! Let's see what's in here. Ooh! Sheet! Costume material! Manifest destiny! Shh, you want the whole neighborhood to hear? Yes! Because your passwords are stupid! Cardboard! Need a password? No, man, this is Circle Trust in here. Ooh, feather duster. Now I'm the Statue of Liberty. Now this is patriotic. Actually, it's a symbol of freedom from tyranny, which is a different and more inclusive concept than loyalty to country. But it'll still get us into that guy's party? Oh, totally. I love Everett. What's my power? Does this not have a power? It might just get me into the party. Let's go! Where was he? He was over... somewhere around somewhere. Let's give a save. Hello, police? Did you know monsters are invading the town and stealing all the candy? Oh, also they kidnapped my... Very funny, kid. Happy Halloween to you, too. I'm serious. This is an emergency. Okay, I'll add your complaint to the police log. Man, I hate working holidays. Thank you for the save. Let's go. Do I have this one? Glop card. Okay, glop card. Gotta look for glop. Gotta get the glop. Hey, I want a bob for apples. Oh, my Tamagotchi is speaking to me. Hello. Good morning. I gotta feed my Tamagotchi, it's very important. I gotta feed my Tamagotchi. Give him ice cream. Give him sushi. I think I'm a Tamagotchi, you guys. That's pretty much all I need. Snacks and sushi. Pretty much all I need. Kids, you're in grave danger. Finally, an adult who sees what's going on. Do I ever? Tonight we are under attack by Sugar. Is that your nickname for one of the monsters? Sugar is the biggest monster of them all. It rots your teeth, gives you pimples, makes you fat. No, it doesn't. Wait a second. And that's why I'm out here tonight promoting healthy eating through the classic game of bobbing for apples. Wanna play? No. Great, let's get started. Grab as many as you can before time's up. Green apples are rare and worth more points than red. Oh, and I only buy organic produce, so watch out for worms and other parasites. What? Go! Alright, here we go. No! Yeah! Victory! That was amazing. You got more apples than a teacher on the first day of school. So what do we win? Candy! Awesome! Wait, is this a trick? Aren't you supposed to be promoting good dental hygiene? Of course. So here's a sweet reminder to help you remember your lesson. It's called positive reinforcement. Come again. I think there's other stuff we can get if we continue to bob for apples, but... I can't find any pie ingredients, Mrs. Potterham. Children these days always want someone else to solve their problems. You're barking up the wrong tree if you think I'm gonna help. Tree. 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 Alright, anyways. Can we just pop in, grab some food, and leave? Oh. There we go. Lady Liberty, such a glorious American symbol, built by American hands! Oh, actually it was made in France. That's okay, my costume was made in China. Don't tell anyone. Now get on in here. Look at all these Abraham Lincolns. Ooh, people are breaking stuff. Finally. Ow, there's a squirrel in that tree throwing cherry pits. Ow. Let me just, can't get me now, can you, squirrel? Get wrecked, squirrel. Everett, your night costume is extremely useful. It is my honor to serve the quest. Stop it. I want to hit this tree. Oh, I can't. I can't actually hit the tree. Okay. Back to robot for zoom. Stupid squirrel. Candy! We've got cherries! I remember how this game works now. Yay! Cherries, this is your ingredient? Did you happen to notice it's Halloween tonight? Sorry, Mrs. Potter Pam. This is all we could find on short notice. May we come in, please? Fine, back to your trick-or-treating. Leave me to save the school by myself again. So many pies. Who needs that many pies? Trick or treat. It's a spooky spider. See my kids out there? Tell them to get on home. I don't know who your kids are. Why do grown-ups think all kids know each other? I just got here. This is my first night in town. I just moved here. Can you imagine moving to a new place on like Halloween night? Because I'm pretty sure that's what the story is here. Save time. Meow, meow, meow. Robin! I was not trying on human clothes. How dare you? I think he was trying on human clothes. Ooh, I forgot Everett was wearing Lady Liberty. Let's check out this costume. It's amazing that the kid got their costume together in a single night. Well, that's why the candy corn costume was so shitty, I think. Basic attack! focusing on you now. Yeah, the candy corn one was at the beginning. That's how Ren's brother got kidnapped. It's because he looked like candy. So the Grubbins thought he was candy. So the Grubbins thought he was candy, so that's why he got wrecked. Merca. Oh yeah, it's a heal. I didn't really need to do that because I was just gonna kill this guy, but that's useful to know. I think the unicorn also heals, if I remember correctly. Ooh, I got fruity foam and moops. Yeah, so Ren's twin brother Reynold got kidnapped because he was dressed as candy corn, and the Grubbins thought he was a giant talking candy. So he got kidnapped by the Grubbins, and now we gotta get this. We gotta trick or treat all of this candy, so that yeah, we gotta trick or treat all this candy, so that the gate will open. Ren's younger brother by 10 minutes. Yeah. So. Well, Ren has a W in front of it. Like the bird. But yeah, very creative. Uh-oh. It's gonna be kind of a tough group here. Shaman first, because he can heal. Yeah, the names are still homonyms. Get wrecked. Oh, I'm on fire. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. He's also on fire, so it's fine. Oh, I missed. Oh wait, I got that guy's card that he wanted, and he said he was gonna give me a rare card for it. Let's go. Yeah. Choco Nana. Sweet. I think something cool happens if we collect all the cards, but it may just be a collectible. Trick or treat! Thank you, the last kid, so just take it all. Yay! All the candy! Every candy you can candy. Mailbox candy. Let's make sure that there's... No, because that's the playground. Okay. I don't want to miss any houses, you know? What's up? I trade any of mine if you got a fruity foam card. Oh, I think that one's rare, so I need to get another one. Because I do have one. Into the sewer or something. Oh, hey. You can't see me. I'm a ghost, cheater. I like to think that Ren is just like, hi. And these guys are like, damn it. am I missing? Oh, a map. No. It's gotta be a house that I'm missing somewhere. I also haven't found that last hiding kid. Oh, here. Trick or treat! A grubbin! Transformation! This game is so cool. Get him. I don't know what these sound effects are, okay? I don't know. The ADHD be ADHDing, okay? We have... we have the mouth noises today. So I decided to make... Oh yeah, so my birthday is next week. Mark your calendars, October 9th. You better be on time for the stream October 9th, because we're gonna do something fun for my birthday. Pretty sure half of them are stock because I've heard them elsewhere. Lol. My my mouth sound effects. I mean, maybe. Okay, there was that house. Oh, here's another house. Okay. Trick or treat! Happy Halloween! The in-game ones I meant, but sure, we'll go with that. It's possible. I mean, this was an indie... It was an indie Xbox game. Like, Xbox 360 game. So, highly possible. I have my Thursday meeting, but I'll be honest, in his end. Yeah, you're always here. I know I can count on you, Kenj, to be here when you can. But yeah, so we're gonna do probably Jackbox. So the more people we can have in chat, the better. Cause you guys can join too. I should put an announcement in the Discord. I'll do it later. Haha, Jackbox. Yeah. It's, you know, it's such a common name. What am I missing? What am I missing? Where am I? Where? Who? What? Who? What? Where am I missing? There's a ramp here. Whoop! Hilarious. If you say so. Well, look, it's the void out there. Candy Bash. Come on, up the ramp. Whee! Bonk. 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 Okay, anyways. There's gotta be something at the end of all of these. It's candy! What house am I missing? I feel like this happened the last time I played too, where there was like one house left. What do you mean? That's not a void. It clearly just snow that came a couple months early. I like this. I like this witch. I like this witch here. She's cute. Okay, what house am I missing here? It's probably on this side. because that's kind of where the camera can hide stuff. There's a bunch of ramps here. So there's gotta be a way around in there. Okay, there's a ramp there. There we go. Found it. Whee! All the candy! Look at all this candy just lying around. I don't think that really helped, though. Let's just go along the sidewalk and just see if I can find any more houses. This is my own house. I'm definitely not in a hurry to go back home. Okay, yeah, I know. We still haven't found all of the houses, so... Throat's a little dry today. I think I was just this way, maybe. I don't know. Gotta find this last house. Find the last house. Where is it? Where the heck is the last house? Any more battle stamps? We do! Increased critical strike damage, slime effect, increased HP. Cool. Okay. Critical strike damage is going on. Oh, I can only have one. Counterattack upon successful defend. Give that to Ren. Increased HP to Everett. Okay, let's get more candy. Because we have more. We can bob for more apples, I think. Yeah, okay. There we go. Easy. More candy! Give me more candy! More candy! I think I get something really good if I finish this, maybe. Come on, there we go. That's a toothbrush. Sweet Tooth, creepy tree card. That's the best prize I got, and the last one. Cool. Quest complete. I need more candy. I gotta find that last hiding guy too. The last hide and seek guy. I need 300 candy for that last battle stamp. Oh, hey, let's see if I have... Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so there's like one more house somewhere that I can't seem to find for some reason. This is my house. It'd be funny if you could have Everett go trick-or-treat at your house. You're like, Everett, go get candy from my house. Where is it? I may have to look it up. I may have to look it up. Because I don't want to be running around this neighborhood, you know, for the entire time. Let's see. Costume. Let me just see. Let's just start at Ren's house. Start at our house. And we'll go. So we're like, this is my house. This is my house. Okay. 1, 2. And then I gotta go past the bullies. Oh. I found all the kids. And I got a new tote bag for candy. Let's see. Problem is I don't know. I don't know which ones I've done already. So I guess I should probably just go through the list, right? Okay. Let's go. So back to Ren's house. So we have Ren's house. And then we have this one. And then this one. And then we go to past the bullies. Left. Right. On the right side, just behind the building next to door number 5. It's this one. Corner. Take right. That's the wrong one. Street from number 8, just to the left of the storm drain. On the other side of the fence. The left from the coffin. Roller skate shoes. I probably got that one. Yeah. Across the street from number 10. There it is. Found it. This better be the last house, or else I'm gonna find the next one, I guess. There's a lot of houses. I wish it would tell me how many houses there are. And then I get a... yeah! I got a counterattack. Oh, I pressed the wrong one. I don't get the counterattack if I miss. It better be the end, or else I'm just gonna keep playing the game. Yeah. I can't hate this game. I can't. I just have to get, like, it's just a little meticulous at this point. Oh, I got another fruity foam. I can get that. I can give it to that guy. Yeah! All houses are free of candy. All right. We gotta go give that kid the fruity foam card because now we have an extra one. Oh, and we gotta check in. I still don't have enough candy. All right, it's fine. We'll go. We need 300 candy for the next thing. Hey, I got an extra one. All right. Gotta break shit for candy. Candy, candy, candy. Ooh, you have candy? 50 pieces of candy. That's good. That's good. Break stuff for candy. Break stuff for candy. Break stuff for candy. I gotta get all the candy so I can give it to Susie, so I can get real strong. Gotta get all the strong so I can defeat all the grubbins, 'cause they suck ass. You guys like my song? It's pretty good, right? I entertain myself at least Billboard Top 100. Good to know I entertain at least one other person besides myself. Well, you know, you guys are here, at least lurking, so I must be somewhat entertaining. I make up silly songs all the time. Oh yeah, same. I just go around the house singing stupid things. Alright, we got enough candy. Most of the time I sing them to my cat. Oh yeah, I sing to my cat all the time. Pumpkin guts. Okay, do I want to give... I like the counterattack. Slime effect. Attacks do splash damage. Increased HP. I haven't had a problem with HP. Oh hey cat. Good timing. Yeah. Alright, let's go! We got all the stamps! We got all the stamps! We got all the stamps and we got all the candy, so we're gonna go through the gate. That's the wrong way. Ah! Let's fucking go! Uh-oh, those monsters are just waiting for us. I bet if I could sneak up behind one, I'd give him a good whack with my candy pail. Bah! Meanwhile, I sing to myself, time to do some sketches. Doo-da. That's good. I like that one. I think I remember that Tumblr post, yeah. Okay, get the... They're all kind of bad, but at least... Yeah, this shaman does heal, so I want to get that guy. But you have the splash damage. Yeah, get both of them. And counter. Rude. I hate when enemies can heal. No. 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 Oh, I pressed the wrong button. That's okay. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. There was no setup. You can't make me paranoid about literally everything I say. rubbing. No, I don't wanna. If I say it counts, will you stop? It's funny. Yes, maybe. It's okay, Kenj. I know you'll never stop. Look at these quick time events. I gotta be me. You too. You two gotta be you. I love this game so much. These guys are definitely tougher. But it's a good thing I got splash damage and I got retaliation. Doing damage even when it's not my time to do damage. Missile barrage. Oh, I thought I was gonna kill him with the splash damage. Oh, I did! Yes! Can I kill him with retaliation? Yes! This combination's pretty good. This combination's pretty good on the... I don't know how far their vision is. Children of the graveyard, come to me. Quickly! Time is of the essence. Psst. Okay. Behind you! Wow, 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 wow. Haha. Wham. Yeah. Time to go find a pale garden. Good luck. If you're material gathering, make sure to go kind of far away from spawn. Just in case someone wants to build in a pale forest. I pressed the wrong button. Closest one is like 3k away. Well, you can go to that one, that's fine. Oh, wait, oh shit. Oh, Ren's dead. Oh, fuck. Oh, God, I got distracted. Uh-oh. 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 Gotta focus up. Gotta focus up. Focus, focus, focus. Thought you were dead. No! Bitch. have switched. I should have switched one of them to the. It's fine. It's fine. I got this. I got this. All right. I missed completely. Come on, come on. Okay, hit it back. The secret plot twist is that your sibling has become one of the Grubbins. That's funny. I don't want to burst your bubble, but no. Alright, shield on Ren. Whoever made this game 15 years ago needs to go back and fix it. Yeah. See, but there's a second game, so like, I don't know. What's that? I don't know, maybe hit it. This? Oh, hey, I can feel that. What? Hey, you talking scarecrow. Aren't you afraid? Not really. You should be. You're chasing a very powerful, very dangerous witch. Can you help us fight her? No. But I can give you this. Ooh, pumpkin costume. And a little something to help you get started. Paper mache! Okay, let's switch Everett to Lady Liberty. Just so, because I really like the robot costume. I know we're behind schedule, Ursula, but it's just these Grubbins are so lazy. Especially that one. I got him sleeping under the bus. Just get all this candy loaded in the next 5 minutes, Bojan, and take it to the Autumn Haven Mall. Maxtel is... Metskill is there? Don't be late, or I'll take this staff and make you even more ugly than you are right now. Well, that's unnecessarily personal. Okay, listen up, Bojo. You can't have all the candy, we won't stop you. You can have all the candy, we won't stop you, but we just need that one. That's our prize piece. The boss is gonna really love eating that one. It looks super chewy. What? Ren, if they eat me, I'm totally telling. No one's eating anything except this middle management weasel is about to eat his megaphone. Normally, I like to think of myself as a consensus builder, but my job's on the line here, so I think I'm gonna have to show you my mean side. Give me my brother. He big. Oh, I just know I'm gonna get a promotion out of this. Oh, right. I have to hit the megaphone. Mandatory team building exercise. I really want to shut this guy up. Yeah, I know. They healed the megaphone. Oh no, they healed him. They healed him. That's fine. I'll deal with him later. Modem dial-up sounds. Missile barrage. Anthem. It's so dumb. But getting a heal. It's not healing very much, if at all. The shaman's trying to heal it, but it doesn't seem to be working. Ha! Broken megaphone. That was company property! Well, now it's nothing. Get the shaman. You get them both. Yes, retaliate. Missile barrage. Yes. And attack. Yeah, first try. Let's go. Take that, Bojan. Stupid name. Oh, why'd I have to pick today to quit smoking? Alright, let's just get on that bus and... After that bus! My question is, why doesn't Reynold just get off the bus? Just get off the bus. Autumn Haven Mall! Wolf. Ow, I landed on my dice. I love Everett. Quick, let's get inside before they see us in the rearview mirror. Ooh, creepy mall. Where are we? Autumn Haven Mall, I think. You sure this is a mall? It looks more like a dungeon, which I am totally prepared for. This part of the mall must still be under construction. Hey, look, a dungeon map! You see what I see? Motherlode Candy Emporium. Bingo. You know that's where they're headed. Then quick, to the candy store! Can I trade you a happy ghast for a waypoint later? No, just craft a waypoint. They're craftable. I want to go down that super dark and squeaky hallway, but my instincts say not without a bright light. Yeah, you can craft them. Hang on. Cause it doesn't tell you. It's on the mod page. But it's not on, yeah. Here, I'll send it. There's also a portable waystone. I'll put it in server info. Alright, there you guys go. My instinct is to follow your instincts on this one. Yep, got protection. I'm not sure what the portable waystone does, but I assume it just lets you teleport places. store. And it's chock full of monsters. Careful, kids, you don't want to go near that place tonight. It's been taken over by teenagers. Sir, those are monsters. They sure are, especially between the ages of 14 and 20. I was going to check out the mall costume party after my shift, but not with those scruffy hooligans running loose. Guess I wore this nifty Space Warrior costume pattern for nothing. Ooh, can we have it? Sure, but take my advice. Stay on the dark side of the mall, where it's safe. Space Warrior costume pattern. Wow! Get ready to call for your monster mommy. Night! I think the knight has higher health. Yeah, it does. Nice. Flamethrower! Yeah! Okay. Get him. Easy peasy. Oh, look at the inflatable tube man. Look at him back there. We're whittling, waddling around. That was the wrong button. That's okay. He's dead. Yay! Yay! Trick or treat. Uh-oh, I wasn't expecting trick-or-treaters because of all the construction. I don't have candy, but you can have these old snow boots I found while cleaning out my shop. Thanks. Ooh, snow boots. Bow. Hey, big guy. Get wrecked. I love this sort of like comic book style of the cutscenes. I was cutting out fabric yesterday, and so my legs are really sore because I don't have a good like cutting table. So I just end up cutting on my floor, and it hurts my body every time. Get him. I pressed the wrong button. Yeah. I could probably have just anthemed, but I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna do both. I spaced out. Completely spaced out. Just for a second. My brain went walkies. Did I miss the chance to get the... Okay, multiple neighborhoods. Okay. Hey, this is a construction zone. Where's your safety equipment? Here, take this safety visor so you guys don't get hurt, okay? Thank you, sir. Safety first. Safety visor. I love the use of the red-tailed hawk in the Statue of Liberty attack. Yeah, because nobody knows what bald eagle sounds like. Hey, wake up! Where with the recycling committee? Have any bottles for us? Hey, knock yourself out, kid. Just keep the noise down, okay? People are working over here. They are very silly sounding. I still think Benjamin Franklin was right and we should have gone with the turkey. Space Warrior! That is by far the most authentic Captain Starblazer costume I've ever seen. The level of detail on the fusion armor is first rate! Okay. Yeah, this is my light. Let's see how it does in combat. Get ready to call for your monster mommy. Spaceman. Oh, we eat at Thanksgiving then. Bald eagles? Yes. No, still turkeys. Because I think it would be funny. Guardsman, probably this guy. Medic, I don't like him. Yeah, that's why I don't like him. That's why I don't like him. Cause he can heal. Ow. Flamethrower. There we go, there we go. Gotta get into the groove. Boy, you got to prove your love to me. Meteor avalanche. Check this shit out. Wham! Probably should have gone the other way. That's fine. I just realized how loud the game is compared to me. Sorry. It's probably been like that the whole stream. That light up sword is pretty great, isn't it? I mean, it actually lights up. Yeah, it's awesome. Whack. Pale bash. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Bet your Space Warrior sword will go through that darkness like butter. Really dark butter. Oh, save point. The police gonna come take care of these monsters? I don't want him to get me. You don't see me. Whack. Got him. Oh good, there's only one. Pow. Get wrecked. We might make it a good chunk of the way through the game at this rate. We're doing pretty good. Pow! Can I call you Trog for short? Alright. Probably the bruisers first. You do splash damage. So we're gonna do that. Pow. I may have to take a look at my my stamps. Just to see, because I think maybe more health. That was the wrong button. Because Everett. Ugh. Everett's dying. Just give him Guardian Shield real quick. Okay. Good. I spaced on the buttons. Okay. No more spacing on the buttons. Oh, Ren's dead. Oh, Ren is fully dead. Uh-oh. 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 No! Okay, let's look at our stamps. Battle stamps. What do we have? Chance to cause a single enemy to flee. Okay, we're gonna put increased HP. And then I still think I like the splash damage. Or maybe... I do still think I like the splash damage, though. Stealing candy is wrong! Alright, let's go. Let's try this. I need to switch Everett back into Lady Liberty. I don't know why he's not. Alright, focus up. I don't know why I was going for that one. Okay. Meteor avalanche. Okay. Guardian shield. Yeah. Got it. Timing, timing, timing. Damn it. That's fine. Ouch. Meteor avalanche, save me! Save me, meteor avalanche! Alright, it did. It did saved me. Oh, these are getting tough. Candy. Okay. Everett needs to be in Lady Liberty, and then I'm gonna go with that. We're gonna try that for a while. Just completely swap them. Gimme candy! Whoop! I didn't see him there. Fight! Yes. They just seem to attack Everett more for some reason. I don't quite know why. Let's go! This grubbin guardsman is really just gonna get his shit wrecked. Meteor avalanche! I should have done it on the other one. That's fine. It does splash damage. Do I need Anthem? It's probably better than not. Heals both of us, so it's just so dumb. It didn't even heal us all the way. See, I don't know why they seem to just, like, attack one or the other more. No. Yeah! Fish head, gross! Okay. Chance of dodging enemy attacks. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. Candygram. Let's go. That's a lot of guys. Oh, okay, okay. Let's go. Wait, I thought I stunned him. I thought I said, shut the fuck up. Maybe if I hit him, it doesn't matter? Oh, maybe if I hit him, it unstuns him. Alright, well. So dumb. Damn. Yeah, I think if I have splash damage even, it unstuns them, so I don't know why I'm being really bad at strategy right now. Will this heal even if they're down? No. Uh-oh. I don't think I'll last. Yeah, there I go. All right, I need a better plan. Egg on your face doesn't really seem to work with splash damage, so let's do increased HP. Well, I was about to hit him. Okay. Let's try this again. It's gonna heal. I'm gonna attack him. Okay. Just a lot of guys. Just a lot of guys. They're hitting hard. Come on. Kill the guy. I think what killed me last time was just being bad at strategy and switching enemies instead of just attacking the same one. Cause yeah. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, what killed me this time was pressing the wrong button. It's getting hard. These are some hard fights. Oh shoot! I pressed the wrong button again. Dang it! I was so close. Ow! I hit my knee on my desk. Ow. No. Ah. Okay. I'm gonna open one of my windows. It's getting a little warm in here. Come on. Open the window. Get some air. Okay, it's not the one that's like closer to the street, so hopefully it's still pretty quiet. I don't know. I need to figure out my shit. I need to put like a foam box around my microphone, I think. to make it better at not picking up other stuff. Meow, 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 meow. Morning. We're playing Costume Quest for spooky season. Is that Etho? Is that Etho who has his microphone on a Kleenex box? Yeah. A fellow Hermitcraft watcher. Excellent. Good. It's like a 5-year-old Kleenex box. I think it's older than that. Yeah, Hermitcraft is great. I've been going through season 10 one player at a time. Yes! Oh my god! Yay! More Hermitcraft watchers! Let's go! So good. Okay. Woo. Yeah, so I watched Gem's series first, and then now I'm watching Grian's series. But I want to get into like Etho seems really cool, and like more of the I love Gem. She's so awesome. But I want to get into more of the I want to get more into the like Redstoner people. Black has all their cables and shit in a Kleenex box. They prop the laptop up on for streaming. They would get along well with Etho. Etho hardly posts. That's too bad. He does some complicated projects though. Mainly watch Grian and Mumbo. Some good choices. B-Dubs has such Minecraft dad vibes. Well, he is a dad, so that makes sense. I may regret this. Yes. But yeah, I like B-Dubs. I really like Grian's Guess the Build series as well. Oh. No, not series. Not you. My phone thinks I'm talking to her. I'm not. Yeah, Guess the Build is really fun. And I love watching Skiz and Jimmy just build like the worst things. Skiz's builds are like incomprehensible. It's so funny. Yeah, Build and Seek is also really good. I need to watch more S Major. Alright. Jimmy gets way too much plaque for my liking. Yeah. I can see that. I also feel like if he truly didn't want or like it, it would stop, right? They're pretty good about consent. There was a really cool episode of Gem's Hermitcraft series where she took the time to like let people know that what like they took Skiz's stuff and he had to get good at parkour or else they would put it in lava, and they took the time to pause and say, hey, like, are you okay with us using the real items, or do you want us to make duplicates? And he was like, no, it's fine. And they actually showed that at the end of the episode. So I'm sure that Jimmy is in on the joke to some extent. But yeah, I like Build and Seek as well. I can see that. I really like Grian's Guess the Build series. I really like Grian's Guess the Build series. I Cause they seem like they're pretty good about like making sure everyone's chill. It's like sibling banter in a way. Like, oh, totally. I realized they had put up for the content, but that type of content is not to my taste. That's fair. That's fair. I do similar. I speak similarly to like my siblings, and they know that it's out of love, and it's just, you know, taking the piss, and that sort of thing is really. This gate will open automatically when all stores in the mall have been emptied of a candy. If you would like to listen, whoever's in there, you don't want to eat my brother. My brother smells, he's annoying, and his costume is embarrassing. In fact, I wish he had never been born. Sometimes. But he's my brother, and that means he's mine to terrorize, not yours. So open up. Beep. To erase your message and re-record it. Oh, never mind. This is pointless. We're just going to have to go trick-or-treating our way. We'll just have to go trick-or-treat our way through this thing. Wishing unbirth on a sibling. Yeah. I understand sometimes your siblings are really annoying. But wishing unbirth seems like a lot. Sorry kids, the mall or rail transport system has been down. Been down all night. Classic siblings. Yeah, the monsters are probably messing it up. Oh no, you guys think we got a case of gremlins? Trowbugs, actually, but don't worry, we'll take care of them. Haha, you kids. Well, if you do, I'll let you ride free all night. How about that? Cool, what you want? My near mint cinnamon brain center card is slightly off center. It makes my head hurt. I think I only have one. Can only trade extras. Wishing unbirth sounds like a D&D spell. I cast unbirth. That's harsh. Found you. Cool. Malenseek. I love the mall. It's so fun. This section of the game is so fun. Trick or treat, day old tacos. Hello, Blackwood. Here's some candy and a coupon for 50% off next visit. That's a Punky Doodles wizard battle spell right there. Yeah. Yeah. Electric Bagel Land. Trick or treat. Trowbug. The Trowbugs took over the bagel store. That feels anti-Semitic. Somehow. Oh. What's up? Oh, the weird store guy is here on my Tamagotchi. What do you have? Yeah, I'll buy that, whatever that is. Is it food? What is it? It's a chikuwa. I don't know what a chikuwa is. But apparently it's a food. Alright, have this. Have the chikuwa. I don't know what it is. But seem to enjoy that. A chikuwa. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up what a chikuwa is. Oh, it's surimi. It's a hollow tube of surimi. Surimi, a mixture of white fish, egg white, starch, salt, and sugar, is spread onto a skewer and then grilled or baked. Why is that a meal and not a snack? And the Tamagotchi. Surimi is what, like, fake crab meat is made of. Like, imitation crab. That's surimi. Oh, I should probably go for the Grenader first, actually. Yeah. Yeah, it's like... It's also, I believe, what Naruto is made of? Yeah. I know for a fact that it's what, I thought he was a ninja. No, he's named after a fish cake. Like a nerd. Who names their kid after a fish cake? A ninja fish cake. Bow. Get him! The Lady Liberty tablet says October 31st on it for some reason. Yeah, Uzumaki means spiral. Yeah. The joke has layers. Arcade! Ah! Trabog Justice! Trabog... Shut up, bitch! Alright, get the shaman. I missed. I ate Fruit Loops for breakfast, and now I am getting hungry because it was not a lot of food. But now we have a microwave again. We have a microwave! Yay! Pure sugar injection, yeah. Delicious. Listen, it's the 1st of October. You gotta get that sugar in you. Woo. Please die. Okay, whew. I really need the oven fixed. I wanted to make prime rib for my birthday. I wanted to make prime rib for my birthday, and now we can't. I'm so sad. Yay, microwave! Boo, no oven! Yeah, I wanted prime rib for my birthday. Gotta get the candy out of these guys. Hey look, these kids aren't playing any games! Your lethargy mocks my authority. Get to work. What? Excuse me, sir, what's going on? Well, I wasn't expecting so much business on Halloween night. I wonder why those kids back there aren't trick-or-treating. What's going on here? Hi. I can't really talk right now. See those monsters over there? They make us play game and trade all our tickets for candy. I don't know why they need so much. Oh, I make tater tots from my burgers. No. Hey, maybe you guys can distract them or something while we sneak out? Yeah, this is a real pain. Not tots without oven. Man, why do we come here instead of trick-or-treating? Hey, quit your yapping and get back to work before Mr. Bojan gets mad. Get back to work. Hey, wait, I recognize these kids. I hate these kids. We don't Hasburger. We don't. Well, then get your own food. No, we don't. Because no tots. Also, you're not in our house. I think. Are you in our house? In my walls? I hope not. Pow. Burger does sound bomb. You sorted my... Don't sort my chests. Don't sort my chests. I have sorting. I have been sorting. Don't sort my chests. I have a system. I know it looks like a mess, but I have a system. Don't sort my chests. Don't mess with people's chests without asking. That's rude. Okay, anthem. Get some heals. This is why I have the ground rules in place for Empires, lol. I didn't think I had to say don't mess with people's chests. I have a system and it's look around through the mines of Moria until I find what I'm looking for. Don't make me get a chest locking mod. Leave my chest out of this. You shouldn't be looking in other people's chests without asking, first of all. I don't know why you... Yeah. Alright, it's fine. Just don't... Okay. Why didn't you beat them, Mr. Bojan? I could if I wanted to, but in order to save company money, I've decided that we should run through this hole instead. They're probably headed straight for the mother lode. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I just, you know, it's, it's fine, everything's fine, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I just, I just thought it'd be fun to play with my friends, and here we are, having to talk about consent. Sometimes you just gotta take a little time and you gotta say, hey, consent. Sorry, am I in your way? I'm just investigating this mysterious malfunction of the monorail. No mystery, it's monsters. Well, I'm a scientist, so I don't believe in fantasy. These monsters are merely an unfamiliar species from a distant galaxy, who have traveled here via a perfectly scientific wormhole in space-time. They're magic. No time to argue. The monsters have kidnapped my brother and we need to get him back. May I suggest we unify our powers of fantasy and science to fight them? I love Lucy. Didn't mean that, but yes. You mean a fellowship? A fellowship. Now, can I trade these sweatpants for a costume? Sure. The last 5 mod packs I played with friends, I was the one forced to sort everything. You're not being forced. Nobody's forcing you to sort things. It's still a little hard-coded. Okay. Observation, non-human sounds ahead. Monsters. And Dorsilla. Make out what they're saying? You let me down before, Bojan. Did I make a mistake by offering you a second chance? They made you into a machine. No. Just hurry up with the candy, okay? I'm going back to the motherlode to make sure the next... I'm gonna call it Mextel, even though that's not how you say that. Even though, to make sure Mextel isn't asleep at the wheel. Hypothesis, these monsters are using the monorail to transport candy. I think it's time we cleared the tracks. Alright. Let me get battle stamps. Put counterattack on Lucy with the robot costume. Because I like it. I like counterattack. Was it? Did you hear something? You! That does it! I skipped the dialogue. Whoops. Whoopsie. Okay. We're gonna focus on Bojan. Gundam! Yeah. Pow! Okay. Ha! Yes! Attack! The one with the counterattack! Ha ha! Yes! Yeah. Meow, 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 meow. Pow. Counterattack. The counterattack is so awesome. A meteor avalanche. If this doesn't kill you. Oh, it didn't. Okay. Die, bitch. Ew, sour feet. You fixed the problem with the monorail. Let's go! Whee! What? It's working! Kids, how did you do that? The monsters were using it for their candy stealing operation. Monsters? That's a good one. Well, whatever you did, she sure runs smoothly now. Feel free to hop on board anytime. I will. Oh, I've got some leftover supplies if you need anything for your costumes. Got rope. What do I need for my costumes? Oh, I need one more for this one. The pumpkin. So we're looking for 2 patterns in the Autumn Haven Mall. What's up? I still don't have an extra cinnamon brain. Gotta keep an eye out. I want to switch to the robot while we're here, and also switch the battle stamps. do that. Just so I can zip around. Oh! I didn't even see that guy. I just wanted to zip around. Pow! The grenadiers are, grenadiers? The grenadiers are annoying. Because they chuck those grenades at you and it sucks. Pow! Pow! The robot is the first costume that you get, and honestly, it's one of the best. I like it a lot. Got gingerbread ham. Give me all your candy. Hey! Haha, I found him. Gotta keep an eye out. Hi there, talk with the announcer at the band. Oh, if you'd like to enter the costume contest. Costume contest? I like a costume contest. I think I got pretty good costumes. What's up? Hey! What's up? How'd you get here, mysterious scarecrow? I am where I need to be, at the speed of thought. Cool, can you teach us how to do that? No. But I can give you this. Orange paint! Thanks! It is my mysterious pleasure. Oh, it's the apple bobbing guy. Hey kids, thanks for joining my protest. You're what? I'm protesting all the sweet shops and unhealthy food vendors in the mall. With a bobbing for apples game? Yes, it's symbolic. Of what? You'll find out. Okay. Yeah! I'm the best at bobbing for apples. Amazing, you processed the heck out of those apples. Here's your candy. What? I get it free from the stores around here. Helps keep costs down. Give me more candy. I will, give me more candy. I'm here to protest something? That's the spirit, let's get protesting. The green ones are worth more, which is why I'm trying to get those. Yeah! They're supposed to be rarer, but I don't know. I guess a little bit. This time you get even more candy! Well, fill up on candy and you'll stay away from the deep-fried pizza stand, right? No, there's always room for deep-fried pizza. Everett is a boy after my own heart. I think it's 3. I think it's 3 rounds. Come on. Come on! Yes! Oh, That one was tough. There was a lot of gross ones in there. Yay! Ooh, pizza sundae creepy treat. I might get nothing from this. Oh yeah, it's just I did all of them. It's fine. I'll go again. This one seems really slow for some reason. Wow, it's just giving me all the green apples now. Oh yeah, I'm just going for numbers now. $52. See you later, Luke. All right. I got my. I think once you get the creepy treat card. My mom's hair actually looks like this. Welcome to the Autumn Haven Mall Costume Challenge. Ooh. Okay. Talking to the judges. You'll be able to find them by their orange coats. Okay. Let's go find the judges. I think one of them was over here, right? Hello, I'm Miss Bagley. I think winning a costume would just sweep me off my feet with a little a winning costume would sweep me off my feet for a little chivalry and honor. Okay, we've got Knight. Let's put Everett in the Knight costume, because that's his original costume. Trick or treat! Yay! It's crazy, our parents don't even know that we're, like, at the mall right now. Camping and stamping. Hey! Sadie! Be cool in front of my dad, okay? Sadie, what are you doing here? Are you kidding? You guys are my best customers. Wherever you go, I go. Sadie just knows where we are, apparently. Now, I know you're not here to camp, so why not buy a stamp? Alright, what do we have? Greatly increased attack power, poison effect. Small HP recovery each turn. Applies a stun to an enemy. I want that one for sure. Increased attack power or toilet paper, I think. Increased attack power. So one-eyed vampire bad. Give that to Everett, because he has the shield right now. Lucy has... Well, I don't really know what we're gonna have right now. Lucy has the robot right now. Oh no, I have the robot right now. So Lucy has the... Oh, the robot. Or the spaceman. Hello. That's my little Sadie over there, the budding entrepreneur. She insisted on coming to work with me tonight instead of setting up her own little pretend shop. Guess she really wants to feel like her old man, eh? That's cute. Sure, you found the ancient mummy, but you're now cursed. Bwahaha! Okay, kid. We gotta look for more judges. There's one. Hi, I'm Miss Kim. These costumes are nice, but nothing has any depth so far. Maybe if I saw something more educational. Educational? Educational? Wait, how do I get in the pumpkin? I have to go from the top. Oh. Trick or treat. Make sure to tell your parents to come back and shop. Okay. Educational. Now, that's the only one I'm not really sure about is the educational one. Trick or treat. Ah, Trollbog. Let's get him. Let's get him. Oh. Spiky guys. Whoa. If Lucy's gonna be Lady Liberty, I should probably have her have the swap her thing with Everett, because she has the heal, so we want our healer to be healed. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Pew! Get him! Yeah! Sludge and sweet fat! Wow. Sorry, only experienced monster hunters are allowed on the 3rd floor. What? We've been slaying monsters all night. We invented it. Oh, really? Then show us your horns. I what now? Bring us, say, 3 monster horns, and we'll let you upstairs. Fine, whatever. We're fighting them anyway. Sheesh, ninjas think they're so cool. It's okay. We'll get those monster horns. Trick or treat. We normally don't have candy at our store, so don't ask for it tomorrow. Why would we? Whoop. Time for monster horn gathering. We're gonna get the monsters and we're gonna take their horns. Ha ha ha. Oh, healer. I like that he's got a little pumpkin. He's got a little jack-o'-lantern. Pow! Okay. Basic attack. Get him. It's a the if I had one criticism of this game, it's that the combat is just a little bit repetitive. But I get that same feeling with like Pokemon too. So it might be a me thing. It might be a me thing. Okay, yeah. Let's go. Monster horn. I still haven't found the 3rd judge. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of monsters around here. In the fancy version, the bones glow in the dark. I got the cheap one. I'm sorry for your loss, kid. Trick or treat. Half off today. P.S. I'm talking about your head. Oh, ew. Do not cut my head in half. That's rude. I think the variety of animations over Pokemon games mitigates that a little, but I definitely see where you're coming from. Well, variety of animations. There used to be. I don't know so much anymore. Definitely used to be a little more care taken into some games. Won't say which ones. But a lot of games I think that got sort of franchised don't have quite as much care taken into them anymore, which is really sad. It's more like, you know, get games out rather than make good games. Oh, we got a second Cinnamon Brain! Yes! Of the attacks themselves, lol. The Pokemon themselves, not so much. Yeah. But it's not just Pokemon, right? Like, there's a lot of games that just don't have the same amount of care taken into them anymore. We need to give the kid up here the Cinnamon Brain. Yay! We gotta find the last... Are they in the arcade, maybe? No. The last judge has gotta be around here somewhere. We got that. Oh, there he is. Hola, amigos. I'm Mr. Mendoza. All of these costumes so far have just been a little old-fashioned. I'd really love to see something more high-tech. Is my robot costume high-tech? Wait, there's a save point around here, right? Yeah. Okay. I don't think I can... I think I can re-enter if I fail, but... Maybe instead of the robot, I'll do this guy. The spaceman. Yeah, I'm ready to enter the costume contest. They call themselves the Auburn Pine Monster Hunters. Yeah. Okay, maybe it's... Yeah. There we go. I don't know why it was the robot and not the... It's fine. We got the unicorn costume pattern, which I think is the one that needs the sweatpants. No? Alright, well, we'll have to keep looking. Let's get... We have the... Wait, I think we can get this last stamp now. Oh! There's more. Adds greater chance of dodging enemy attacks, greatly increased HP. Okay, let's get this one first, and then we'll keep looking around. I don't know why I keep trying to dash with right trigger instead of B. So that's why I keep going into the costume swapping menu. How do I get into that pumpkin? I want the thing. Maybe from the 3rd floor. Oh, this guy's got a horn. Let's kill him. It will kill. the medic. Yeah! Check us out! We're doing hecka damage. Keeping that level up. Wow. When you're on the same level or higher than the monsters, you definitely do. It definitely goes by pretty quickly. But if they're even like a level above you, you have to really hit them. Get wrecked. Die. Yay! Okay, that's 2 monster horns, right? So I need one more. Okay, and I can't get into... Oh. Let's see. The pumpkin is... Yeah, it's like right here. So I don't think I can get to it from here. So maybe I have to go to the next floor to get that. Trick or treat. Yay! Nice and safe in the mall, huh? Definitely, yeah. Definitely nice and safe. That's how I would describe the mall full of monsters. Candygram. Finally. It's been a while since I got one with a sneak attack. Get the medic. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Shoot him. Wham! Poison fire. I pressed the wrong button. Wrong button. Missile barrage. You won't survive this. Oh no, you survived this. Got all 3 monster horns. Yay! Let me upstairs. Okay, I'll go all the way around to talk to Pablo and Derek. Is their monster horn? Thinking their voice is kind of cruel. You know what? Ooh, ninja costume. We can go invisible now. Let me up. Oh, was it because I was trying to go up the down? I don't think so. Trick or treat! Candy! Now you are Naruto. What do you want? Slime. Ah, he stole your. He stole your creepy treat card. Well, that just won't do. Bah! Let's see what the ninja can do. I mean, first of all, he looks really cool. $22 damage. I think the Grenader. Fire! I think he does more damage. 35. 35. They do about the same. I don't know why. I find them really annoying. The grenade guys. Poison fire. There's something about poison fire that just really really sounds nasty. Oh. Can shroud them so they can't be seen, maybe? As if fire isn't enough. Poison fire. All right. Bah. Yeah, look how cool we are. Edible hat. Trick or treat. Trick. Why do people keep bothering me while I'm looting? Because you're dumb. All right, who's the most annoying? Well, the bruiser has the most health. Let's go with him. These are all 7s, though. So it's gonna take us a little bit. That's the wrong button. Ouch. Wow. Okay, one down. Okay. Okay. Wow. Ouch. Let me just protect Lucy for a sec here. Can I stack these? I think I can. Maybe? I don't know. She might be shrouded and block shielded. That's the word. I figured it out. I found the word. That's the wrong button. Maybe press the right button next time. There we go. Okay. Press the right button. Yay! pimples. Found you. Pumpkin pail. Look how cute it is. Oh, hello. Ninja time. I don't know if ninja's my favorite, but I like him. Get the medic. Kill the medic. Okay, okay, okay. I think the Magus is the most annoying next. We're doing pretty good damage though. Get him. I think just attack. Just attack. Just kill him. Just kill him. Just murder. You know, just a little murder. Just a little murder. Just a little murder. I want to go back to the robot though, because I like to zip around. Trick or treat. Please give me candy. Yay! And a coupon. Okay, is there anything else up here? I was just told to get the kid's creepy treat card back, but I don't think I did. I don't know. We'll keep an eye out for the slime beetles. Bow! Got the jump on you. Haha, idiot. Robot time. What's that guy? Oh, the Grenadier. Okay. I didn't see that he had the barrel on his back before. Bah. Get him. Okay. Fire! Poison fire! Haha! Man, imagine being allergic to fire. Couldn't be me. Skill issue. Pew. Could definitely use some healing as soon as possible. Everett might go down if they keep targeting him. But it's okay because we got our powers. Okay, we're gonna Guardian Shield Lucy and then we'll Anthem so that everybody gets healing. All right, cool, good. I pressed the wrong button. Like a dumbass. There's too many buttons. 4 is too many. Hey, slime beetles! Can I give this to the kid, or is it because... Or am I gonna have to keep it because... Because it's his card. It was stolen from him. I want to give it back. Man. You do have his card. You do have his card, you little liar. You little liar, you're just as bad as the monster. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's how we get down to the pumpkin. Trick or treat! Let's see if we get another slime beetle before we go jump into the pumpkin. Jump into the pumpkin. Okay. Get the medic. Get the medic. I pressed the wrong button again. I don't know why. I'm so confused on what buttons are what. It's just in some of them, sometimes I get confused. Like, most of the time I know what I'm doing, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, my hands just go, what button is that? I don't know what button that is. It's like, yes, you do. You've been pressing that button for 3 hours now. Ah. I like that your specials don't miss. 'Cause that would be annoying. Alright, we got all of them. Alright, well. Whee! Pumpkin! Glitter! Yay! Okay. Ugh. It is just about, I don't want to quite go to the next area yet because we're just about done. I want to see if I can find that kid's card though. That kind of sucks. It's that I'm like keeping it. Oh, and I can get those last stamps, I think. So let's go do that. Let's go get some stamps. All right. We got the flying tombstone and the albino black cat. Now I want to get that kid's card. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll do like one more. We'll do one more fight, I think. And then it shall be time to raid the Voot. Get this guy first. He's annoying. I hope I get this kid's card. I would really like to. I'm gonna get really good at quick time events while playing this game. Maybe. Or I'm gonna suck for the entire time. We'll find out. Pew. Pew, pew, pew. also barrage this guy. The poison will get the other guy. Yeah. Did it. Easy peasy. Okay. I can do. Did I get the card? I didn't even notice. I wasn't looking. I need 2 slime beetles. I have 2 slime beetles. Yay! Let's go give that kid his card that I definitely didn't have the entire time. Just seems rude. Just seems really rude to just be like, nope, don't have your card. It's like, yes, you do. You just don't want to give it to him until you have doubles. All right, we're doing pretty good on the creepy treat, and I think that was a save, but I'm gonna go save anyways. We're gonna go to the save. We're gonna go to the save spot to really make sure we're saved. Just gotta really make sure that we're saved. Okay. Just gotta wait. Just gotta wait a little bit. Seems like. Oh, I'm gonna get to work. If I can get the stuff for my birthday done today, I'm making a new pair of overalls for my birthday. I'm technically making 2. I made 1 already, but I'm making another pair of overalls for my birthday because I like overalls. So if I can get this pair of overalls done, then I can work on stream stuff. And then maybe we'll have a nice little stream set up for October. So little bit of a Halloween fun setup. Yay! So I think that'll be really good. As you guys saw the new loading screen. If you weren't here to see the new loading screen, why not? Why weren't you here? Nice and early. Yeah, let me just. So there it is. I made it in like 15 minutes. So yeah, it's cute. It's cute. I'm working on making it better animated and stuff. So we shall see. My Tamagotchi is complaining again. Why? Oh. I had to go to the bathroom. Apparently. It's mad at me. I'm gonna praise it for being mad at me. I don't like yelling at it. The options, it comes up with this little like grumpy emoticon thing, and then you can either yell at it or praise it, and I just keep praising it because I don't want to yell at it. If it's upset, then it should. If it needs attention, then that's okay. It's okay to need attention. Remember, chat, it's okay to need attention sometimes. You can just need attention. You don't have to need something. You can just need attention, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. To just need attention. Where the heck is Black? Where the heck is Black? They're running late. I'm gonna send you guys over there anyways, cause it's time to go. And then if they're not live, just hang out in chat. Just hang out in chat, and I'll be hanging out in chat, and we'll just all be there when it is time for them, when they're actually live. So I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're doing something. Tomorrow we'll figure something out. Maybe Minecraft. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something. Possibly with Moxie and Blackboot. Naomi is currently out of town, and we don't really want to continue because the next thing to do is like kill Ketherick, and that's kind of a big major plot point. Next Thursday is my birthday, and we will be playing Jackbox. So tell all your friends to come hang out on Thursday. Tell all your friends to come hang out on Thursday, because it'll be my birthday next week. Next Thursday, it'll be my birthday, and we're going to play Jackbox, and we're going to get as many of my friends as possible on voice chat, and it's going to be really fun. So I hope to see you all there then, and I hope to see you all tomorrow.